So in the final stages of my internship, I really focused on applying the knowledge that I had gained doing research. So while doing my internship with Jennifer Laffier, I had to assess and evaluate mental health supports in post-secondary institutions for first-year students specifically. And in the last week of my internship, I had to turn my research into a paper and literature review, which will be comprised of a larger study that looks at mental health supports in universities and colleges. So one of my success criteria was that I will be successful when I can understand how first-year students' mental health is impacted in the transition from high school from a variety of scopes. So looking at a whole bunch of different aspects of this transition to university. So in order to fulfill this success criteria, I tried to broaden my scope of research by looking at journals and articles that examined many different sides of the cause of mental health problems in first-year students. I feel that I successfully met this criteria and was very aware of my progress toward this goal throughout the entirety of my internship. One tool that really helped me to meet this success criteria was Kolb's experiential learning cycle. So the reflective observation point of the cycle really allowed me to reflect on my concrete experience to become more self-aware of the research that I was using to write my literature review. And then this allowed me to understand a variety of impacts on first-year students' mental health and to proceed throughout the rest of the learning cycle by forming conclusions and then experimenting with new research strategies. So throughout this whole research process, I really was continuously involved in this cycle, and this really helped me to build my knowledge and my understanding of mental health in universities and colleges. Another success criteria which held big implications for my learning and building my knowledge throughout this process was being successful when I could form a conclusion about what resources are most effective in helping students' mental health in universities and colleges, and when I can propose new resources to assist students. So going into this internship, I thought I had a strong understanding of what strong mental health supports look like. However, upon reflecting and taking part in that part of Kolb's cycle, on where I was 10 weeks ago, I realized that my understanding was quite limited. So I went into the project thinking that counseling was the only way for first-year students to seek help. However, I now know that many other initiatives and outreach programs exist, some of which work better than others depending on what sort of support you need and what kind of student and person you are. And this made me able to analyze mental health supports now much better than I ever could before. And I'm now able to understand how individualized mental health supports need to be, which is why in looking at new resources to assist students, I really think there needs to be a breadth of resources that are available, because one support won't necessarily work for the entire population. So I hope to see more things like conferences and outreach programs and peer-to-peer support, because I really think that that is really valuable for students. In talking about the success criteria that I did meet, there is one that I did not meet but intend to keep working on, and this was being able to come up with action plans for supporting my students in my high school classroom. So my research did not take me to this point in my learning, as in the amount of time that I had, I was not able to take my research into any classrooms or actually apply it to my teaching practice. However, with the knowledge and experience that I have gained, I feel as though I'm well equipped to begin thinking of ways that I can help my students in transitioning from high school to post-secondary school. Because one of the challenges that I met was time management and being able to balance my research with writing and making sure that both were completed well, but that I had time to devote to each aspect, I was not able to meet this criteria that I had set out for myself. However, I fully intend to continue working on it in the future, as knowing how to support students is just as important as knowing the theory that goes behind it. In terms of my next steps regarding what I have learned in this internship is to continue researching as much as I can. This project has really shown me what it means to be a lifelong learner and to continue building one's teaching practice outside of the classroom, not just during the school hours. So therefore I hope to keep up with mental health research to better assist my students, because it's evolving and gaining more knowledge all the time. Thinking long-term into my career, however, I also hope to be able to apply what I have learned in this internship, especially concerning the necessity of encouraging positive coping strategies in my students and appreciating the individualization of mental health programs. I hope to implement a transition program for students in grade 11 and 12 at the school that I end up teaching at. I feel that this is really going to help prepare my students for what is coming in first year, and knowing the research of mental health struggles in first year students, I'm able to start them before they actually have to undergo this process, and am able to teach them about what positive transition looks like, and hope to diminish mental health struggles in first year by starting them a couple years before they actually have to make that transition. So I'm really, really happy with how my internship turned out. I know that I learned a lot and was very, very involved in experiential learning throughout the entire time. And reflection really proved to be probably the key point in Kolb's learning cycle for me, just because it was such an individual project that I really had to be self-aware and reflecting on what I was doing all the time. And I look forward to seeing where my knowledge takes me in the future.